The Committee on Parole is called back to order. The time is 9:17 a.m. Our next case is Mr. Dudley Dantin. Mr. Dantin, would you please give us your full name and DOC number? Mr. Dantin, I want to explain our procedure to you. We're going to conduct a parole interview with you. At which time, once we talk to you a little bit, we'll allow those parties who have desired to speak today to speak. You have three supporters here today. Louise Mathern, who is your ex-wife, Sandy Berg, who is your daughter who wishes to speak, and Kent Berg, who is your son-in-law. In opposition, we have Miss Brooke Dantin, who is on Zoom, I believe, but does not wish to speak. And then you'll have an opportunity to say whatever you'd like to say before the board votes. Do you understand our procedure, sir? This is the matter of Dudley Dantin, DOC number 615375, date of birth December the 30th of 1952. He's classified as a first-time felony offender. He has a parole eligibility date of June 26th of 2018, a full-term date of June 28th of 2030. He is currently serving an 18-year sentence on three separate counts of indecent behavior with a juvenile, having been sentenced on July the 12th of 2013. Mr. Dantin, did you understand all of those things? And is all of that correct? Okay. Mr. Dantin, how old are you, sir? And how long have you been in prison on these charges? 11 years? Mr. Dantin, it's obvious to me you have some physical limitations. What is your medical condition? Warden, do we have anybody here that can discuss his medical?
Parkinson's is what I was told.
Okay.
They don't have anybody here, but I can get it there.
Okay. You have Parkinson's disease? Okay. Do you understand what we're doing here today? Do you understand what this procedure is about? Okay. Do you understand why you're in prison? Could you tell me a little bit about why you're in prison? Well, let me see if I can just ask a couple of questions, Mr. Dantin. Mr. Dantin, what is the relationship of Miss Brooke Dantin? Your son was married to her, is that correct? And those children are the victims in this case are your two step granddaughters? Can you tell us why you did what you did? Do you know? Have you ever had any sort of mental health evaluation?
He's stable and compliant with his medications.
Okay. Does he understand what we're doing here today? It's just difficulty in him communicating?
It is. I think he's more nervous.
Okay. Mr. Dantin, I understand that you're probably very nervous, but there's some information that we need to get out to make some decisions, okay? You comfortable continuing? Mr. Dantin, for me, as a member of this parole committee, I am obviously concerned about what you've done in the past and to make sure that you don't do that again. So those are the reasons for the questions. I've read your report and I've read the things that are alleged against you. it was suggested that you did something like this a long time ago in Golden Meadow. Do you remember that? Do you know Miss Jazzy Bruce in Golden Meadow? Do you know who that is? Mhm. Did you ever have any relations like you had with your step granddaughters with someone else? What effect do you think what you did to your step granddaughters has on them? What do you think? How do you think they feel? How do you feel about what you did? You took sex offender treatment? You took the 4 phases of sex offender treatment? No, I understand, but you took that? What can you explain to me very briefly what you got out of that? What did you understand in your sex offender treatment that your actions did to those girls? Have you been able to maybe determine in your own mind why you did that? Have you thought about what you did and why you did that? I believe you were 59 years old when this happened. Is that right? What were you doing at the time? Were you working? You have been disabled for a long time? How long have you been disabled? But you were able to drive. I mean, part of these crimes occurred in your truck. So you were able to drive a truck and get around and do things like that? Okay. What was your disability? Was it your Parkinson's or was it something else?
He was in a car wreck, and the nerve in his ear was damaged. He was really busy.
Were you under treatment, the doctor's treatment back then?
I have mental health and medical here.
Okay. Where will you live if you were able to get out soon? With your family? How is your mobility now? See, you're in a wheelchair. Can you walk around or do you have to be in the wheelchair all the time? Walk a little bit. Maybe we can hear from the medical staff.
Kelly? Ms. Burns?
Ms. Burns.
Any further information besides Parkinson? She did confirm Parkinson. Any?
I did have a few times complicated in the year. Went from walking around on the phone to opening a wheelchair. But I wanted to get a more accurate picture of the reading the document.
So physically, he's deteriorated with Parkinson's. Mentally, he's stable.
And is it likely that he will either remain the same or move downwardly?
It is likely that he will follow the It's not going away, and we only get learned to continue to follow it now.
Warren, do you have any comments that you?
The record speaks for itself. Thank you, Ms. Byers.
Now we'll hear from your supporters. Let's hear from anybody else have any questions? Now let's hear from Miss Sandy Berg, his daughter.
I just feel like he has done more than enough time, especially with his condition. I'm a nurse who would be able to take care of him, make sure he sees the right doctors. To just, I mean, I want him home. I don't want him to pass away.
And what would home look like? Who all is going to be living there with you?
I have my mom who's gonna help, my son, my husband, my son's wife.
And you are a nurse, are you currently working?
At the moment, I'm not. I just had research. But normally, yes, sir, I do work.
I think so.
Sure.
Let me ask you one question. You said he's gonna be living with you, your husband, and your mom. And your mom and your dad is
They
divorced?
divorced.
Okay.
But she's willing to
I
help
understand.
take care of him.
I understand.
We're gonna get him an apartment, or a trailer, or camper, or a little
On
building
on our land.
on the land. He won't be living in the same house.
Okay.
But I'll be supervising.
Y'all don't live by any schools or anything of that nature, do you?
Are there any children in the house or any nieces, nephews that come over?
Playgrounds, daycare centers?
No. And my son's 27, his wife's 25.
Okay, do they have children?
No, sir, they don't want it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Danton, is there anything you'd like to say? I'd like to move for executive session. I'm going to move that we go into executive session. Is there a second?
Second.
Any opposition? No. Okay, we're going to be in executive session to discuss confidential matters. We'll resume this hearing in just a few moments. Thank you.
If he doesn't look like the epitome of a cockroach, no one else does. But I'll show you exactly the cockroach we're looking at. Yep. If that's not evil, if that can't give you nightmares, I couldn't find anything else, but what they were leading into on this was that he had done something like this before, which of course he had. He's been doing this his entire life, and he was doing it with 2 children under the age of 13 who were his step-grandchildren. His step-grandchildren. And I'm confused, but is it his own family whose kids it were that want to invite him back home? Or is it different people? I guess we don't really have clarity on that. They're talking about giving him his own place to live on their property, his own. Really? Here he is pretending to be a complete invalid. And then his family is saying, well, we're going to give him his own trailer on our land. How's that going to work? Is he an invalid or is he not? Is he manipulating the board or is he not? In my opinion, it looks like pure manipulation. He's acting as if he can't remember anything. He's acting as if he's completely incommunicative. Meanwhile, they're saying that he's 100% mentally functionally there. That was not the impression that he was giving us.
Order. Mr. Danton, after reviewing your file and coming here today, my initial reaction, quite honestly, was to deny your parole. It appears to me that your medical condition is a factor that is of concern to me. You're in a position where you have family members that are willing to take you into their home and help you and work with you. It appears to me that your medical condition would prevent you from being any danger to society. I have read all of the opposition from the victims, and I understand their position, and I agree with it. And if you were more able-bodied, I would deny you today. But based upon your medical condition, based upon the things as they sit here today, the fact that you have some good family support, my vote would be to grant your parole to live with your daughter, only with your daughter, and to meet all of the other requirements of a sex offender and have no contact whatsoever with any person under the age of 18 years old. I'm one vote, so that's my vote. Mr. Freeman?
I concur pretty much for the same reasons. I don't think you're a risk to public safety, but under normal circumstances, I would be inclined to deny, but today I'm a vote to grant.
Mr. Roche?
Mr. Dan, after reading the victim impact statements, Ms. Allen and her sister are still mentally, physically, and emotionally affected by your callous activity. These individuals were 12 and 13 years old. They looked up to you as a grandfather figure, and you abused that privilege. And they are adamantly opposed to your early release. Their mother is adamantly opposed to your early release. The entire legal community in that jurisdiction is opposed. In the nature of the crime and the age of the victims, I'm going to have to deny your request.
Thank you, Mr. Roche. Mr. Danton, you require 3 votes to grant your parole. There have been 2 votes to grant and 1 vote to deny. Your parole today has been denied. Good luck to you, sir.
We'll let that sink in. Mr. Roche, the victim's advocate. He may talk softly, but he carries a big stick. I think we just saw justice being done. And we have seen so many cases where the cockroach is let out. And I frankly thought this cockroach was going to be let out. If anything, because of the burden, the financial burden to the Department of Justice, to the Department of Corrections. It's very expensive to house someone like him. And I thought because of that, they'd let him out. But Mr. O'Shea said no. He, even without the victim saying anything, he read the letters. And he said, you know what? You're not getting away with it. You can wheel in here and you can try to manipulate us. And there's no doubt he has Parkinson's, and there's no doubt he's sick. But the victims are suffering. And what right does he have to get out early? What he must have just going through that rejection after first getting the 2 approvals, he thought he was going home free. He thought that he was set. I mean, they were going to have his own trailer where he can do whatever he wants in there. And let's not be naive. You know, the first obvious lie that he was caught in when they said, what was he doing before? He said, I was disabled. And they said, well, you weren't so disabled that you had a truck. As a matter of fact, your actions, they took place in that truck. He wasn't expecting them to have done their homework. You know, there's so much that screams out into someone when they see a man in a wheelchair like that, where you want to feel bad for him, where it feels cruel. But then you take a step back and you realize that it's not cruel. Letting him out would have been cruel to his victims, who took the time to show up, even though they didn't speak, who wrote the letters and said they wanted him to be locked up in here. To violate or put them through something because he's in an uncomfortable position would have been cruel to the victims. And when you think about that and you remind yourself that you have to put the victims first, the survivors first, you have to. And I'm just so grateful that Mr. O'Shea did it. He did that on behalf of the survivors, on behalf of a brother and a sister who had a step-grandfather, someone who they trusted and looked up to, for him to go in there and to selfishly and to greedily and to, for his own personal pleasure, for his own perverted session to do what he did to them for how long. And it wasn't his first time. And frankly, there's no guarantee. We don't know how much he's manipulating the board right now. And we don't know who it is that he's going to and how they control his trailer. But that's besides the point. What are your thoughts? This format is definitely interesting. It's still figuring out. This is the second hearing I've seen this way. I'm figuring out how I prefer it or not, but it's like probably could use a better microphone next to the inmate. But with that, I'm going to let you go.